just chop this dude in half.
Nice. Oh wow.
Tasty. Hello, we're back with another Play or Pass, where we jump into some co-op and multiplayer games and give you our thoughts on whether or not they're worth picking up. And if you want to join myself and Nex for more co-op and multiplayer content, feel free to hit the sub button below and sit back each week as we review and play through all sorts of different titles. Today we're covering Warframe, a free-to-play third-person action role-playing game that originally released in 2013. However, the constant updates and injections of new content has meant that things have kept fresh and modern, and people are still jumping in today. In Warframe, you control a member of the Tenno, a race of ancient warriors that have awoken from centuries of sleep and now find themselves in the middle of an interplanetary war. At the heart of this warrior race is their ability to use Warframes, powerful suits of biomechanical armor which you have at your disposal. In total, there are 35 Warframes to choose from, and the ability to customize your weapons, mods and abilities gives you a massive amount of scope with which to play around with theorycraft and choosing your favorite build. In-game, your Warframe essentially turns you into a godlike sci-fi soldier, with the ability to lay waste to hordes of enemy units. And with it you'll complete procedurally generated missions, navigate the large open world style areas, and try and complete a number of other game modes that include PvP, PvE, stealth missions, wave defense, and many more. And because your Warframe makes you so much more powerful than any one single enemy unit, the game throws hundreds of them at you, making missions fast-paced, manic, and high action. Despite the game having an initial release date of 2013, the devs at Warframe have kept things relevant and attractive during that time, and as of the date of recording this, it gets around 50,000 daily players. So we jumped in to let you know in 2021 if Warframe is a play or a pass.
This poster child for a premium free-to-play experience seems to have done everything right in a game where you're cutting down hordes of enemies like they're nothing and leveling up with frequent updates and in-depth customization. Graphically, the game looks fantastic. The UI is tastefully minimal and the various planets and enemies are all uniquely themed with a wide selection of tilesets to explore and fight through. You pick from 3 Warframes to begin and you're shown to a star map where you'll slowly progress to new planets on completing various missions. Starting from Earth, there'll be flashing nodes with predetermined mission types, which, upon completion, alongside the story campaign, will unlock access to the next planet, with most endgame activities being playable once the later stages of the star chart have been unlocked. The overall fluidity of movement is second to none, with buttery smooth, frictionless sliding, gliding through the air, and changing direction with ease. Every player has the capability to navigate the environment on their own terms, allowing you to complete the mission in interesting ways. However, for some players this could be an issue, with a number of mission types able to be completed in a fraction of the time, if you choose to just dive over the enemies. The factions you come across the most are Grineer, Corpus and Infested, and other than their individual theming, they also have separate strengths and weaknesses for various damage types. At its most basic level, Grineer have heavy armor, Corpus use shields, and Infested are more melee oriented. It's worth noting that this is not a persistent open world game, but one that is instance based. By default, you spend most of your idle time in your ship, which isn't huge but big enough to house a load of the core features of the game. Other than this, you might find yourself in your clan's dojo or one of the hubs of the open world or trading areas. When you're less idle, you can party up or go alone into instance missions of generally up to 4 players, but you can choose to autofill with strangers or just play with people you know, even if it's a team of just 2 or 3. Progression in Warframe is quite multifaceted. Each player, or Tenno, can equip different Warframes, a primary, secondary and melee weapon, and a utility companion, each of these with a ton of options to unlock and level separately. However, acquiring many of these unlocks are locked behind your mastery level. Gaining XP on any piece of equipment will contribute to your mastery, encouraging you to get every weapon or Warframe you come across in order to have it leveled to max. It sounds long, and it is. Very long. That being said, some people love the grind and the frequent but never-ending goals, especially as the weapons and Warframes truly evolve the experience. Each one feels completely different from the next, and usually have a very specific niche that they excel in. There are basically no weapon types in existence that are left out of this game, so you know you'll find exactly what you're looking for. As for Warframes, the range is broad. You might pick Loki, the Master of Deception, who's fragile but can go invisible, create clones and disarm enemies, or Atlas, who is a bulky melee brute capable of summoning stone brawlers and petrifying enemies. The game modes mixes the combination of different planets with different factions along with one of the 23 game types. Without going through them all, some examples are Survival, where you must survive 5-minute rounds of continuous enemies whilst keeping your life support levels up for a number of different means. Spy, where you must hack into vaults without alerting the enemies in the vault area to your presence. Excavation, where you take power cells dropped by enemies to excavation sites and defend them until they've fulfilled their purpose. And missions where you fly around in an Archwing to carry out objectives. To complement the repeatable gameplay loops are a huge range of customization options. Warframes and loadouts are upgraded through the use of mods that are acquired through many areas of the game. These mods can boost things like health, shields, crit damage, and status effects, as well as augment Warframe abilities, completely changing the playstyle of that character. There's lots of opportunity to min-max, as well as coming up with different builds for different enemy factions and challenges. Customization also comes via the strong Fashion Frame community. Each Warframe and weapon has a number of skins to unlock, with colour palettes to change the colour of anything. This also includes your ship too. Endgame is undefined and comes in many flavours, as Digital Extremes do a great job at adding regular varied content. An example is endurance runs, where you play an endless mode that increases in difficulty, requiring the team to stay alive as long as possible. As mentioned, the game often gets large content drops, which is fantastic for a free title. And to that effect, we won't have mentioned a large amount of content available, but you should get a good picture of the game from what we've gone over so far. Note that you can pay to reduce the grind if you're so inclined. A few aspects that we thought the game falls short is firstly the flow of the overall experience. Going into missions and returning to the same small ship over and over gets fairly monotonous over time, and there are some annoyances with party interactions. If a player wants to head over to a void trader to buy something quickly, they'll have to leave the group. If your team wants to leave the dojo to go somewhere, the group seems to have to disband. Trading is a bit cumbersome. You can't just give your mates a mod, they have to trade something. Anything in return.
Thank you!
Well, just cause. Finally, for all its great gameplay elements, it can't be overlooked that there is a huge amount of mess on screen at times. Warframe effects are quite intrusive, and when there are 4 of you in one place, we found it hard to enjoy these moments as much as we maybe should have.
The first thing that jumped out at me after my first few hours in Warframe was the sheer amount of content available in a free game. Outside the main storyline, there's an open world to explore, endgame content to work towards, and multiple different missions to do on a number of different planets, all of which are brought alive with amazing visuals. There's also not a lot of hand-holding here, which I quite like, and while the game does have a loosely guided story, you're really free to play whatever you want, whenever you want, and make your way through the content at whatever pace you feel comfortable with. However, while the aesthetics and the mechanics of gameplay are great, and there's a massive variety with regards to warframes and weapons, the game does feel a bit lifeless at times, and after a while you begin to feel the grind of having to gather components, level your gear, or simply get the baseline content done to get to endgame. And when you combine this with the rinse and repeat style of the missions, it means that this game might not be for those of you who love a deep, story-rich environment. Overall, we gave Warframe a 3.5 out of 5. And for us, if you don't mind a game with a bit of grind, it's a play. However, saying that, the game does have great gameplay mechanics. It looks great and it's free to play. So really, you have nothing to lose by jumping in and giving it a go. Let us know in the comments what you think of the game, or whether or not you agree with our review. We're the Bullet Sponges, and we'll see you in the next one.